Welcome to this live stream. I'm Cara Helene, and this is my dear friend Alex Baisley of the Big Dream Program. And I'm just so delighted to have you here with me, Alex. So we tend to have really wonderful ranging conversations, and then I'm like, you know what? We should be able to share some of the
We always
juiciness that comes out of
to
these with
ourselves,
others.
don't we?
Yeah,
Quite against your topic today.
right. Exactly. So in the spirit of that, right, it's inviting in the spring energy of connection and cross pollination, and we've had a lot of conversations over the years about this, about how important, the essence of the work that we bring to the world, whether that's for money or it's just the big dreams that we have inside us that we want to bring to life in the world, about how they can only reach a certain point of maturity until they have to kind of leave us and it be in exchange with other people,
Wow.
because those other people, right,
Wow.
have something for us.
Right.
That for
Right.
me, from like an ecological perspective, I say, like, we need to be cross pollinated, right? Like, we can't just do it on our own. We need to invite others into the conversation for
Right.
feedback and other inspiration that wants to connect. And spring to me is like that quintessential time, right? We're watching all the trees start to put up their flowers and start to be in communication again after being out all winter.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I thought today, the day after the spring equinox, would be a really fun time to have that conversation, as well as offer a somatic practice from some of your work to give people a
Great.
sense of how to start to tap into some of that energy in a very real way.
I love the topic, Cara, and it's been one of the hardest ones for me because I'm such a, as you know, but others may not. I'm such an introvert, like an extreme introvert, hermitic introvert, and I work on it. I've had therapy and all that. It's just that it's getting there, but I'm still a work in progress. And so the whole idea of coming out into the world with ideas or asking for help or socializing my ideas such that other people may hear about them, marketing, stuff like that is, oh boy, I really, really try hard to avoid it. And in the past, it has led to a lot of suffering. At the end of the day, it just takes other people to make shit work.
It does, right? And I think that's like a very human kind of conflict that we have
Yeah.
sometimes. I think in Western culture, I mean, you're in Canada, right? I'm in the States, and so that's a little bit of a cultural difference there. But particularly in the States, right, it's that like rugged individualism, right? Like, you got to do it all
Hmm.
on your own and push forward, and nature's like, yeah, that's not how things work, right?
Right.
Like, you need to be in conversation, you need to be connected with those around you to be a part of the network of life, to receive what it is that you need and to be able to give it out into the world.
Right.
And so I
Right.
think a lot of the work you do with the clients who come to you, and this was part of the work I was doing too, right, is like, yeah, you can vision and dream and do everything all day long, but if you aren't actually starting to, like, you call it, float it out, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, like, how is this, does this float, does this work?
Yeah.
I think that's such a really good way to look at it, because a lot of times, in the business world, it's like, oh, just jump in and do it. And I'm like, how much time and energy and money do we waste, right? Like, just jumping in and doing something before we really kind of explore it with other people. I'm wondering, right? Like, what missed opportunities are there that could make it stronger or better, or just realize, like, this is
Yeah.
a dead end and maybe I need to put this aside for right
Right.
now.
Right. 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 And there is a season for it, Cara. I'm sitting here 19 years now, I think, ish, helping folks with, their big dreams. Like, what am I doing with my life and all of that? And I have some calling inside me. I don't know what it is, all of that. So I'm having these big, fun, diverse conversations, but I get to see patterns, right? Because I've been doing it long enough, not just in my own self, but predictable patterns. And one of them is that you can come out socializing an idea too early. This is a different for everybody, how much length of time this is, but I think the season probably exists for everybody. That uh, I've done it myself, is you have this great idea, but you're scared to death of it deep down, like some kind of stage fright, whether you're conscious of it or not. And therefore, you tell it to the one person who's going to shit all over it, the one person who's going to And then, oh, well, I guess that was a bad idea anyway. Like, I wish they supported me. Like, why did you tell them in the first place it wasn't ready for that? To use your sort of gardening, planting metaphors, I'm thinking it's like you're growing this little plant. My wife Kathleen grew this avocado from seed once. It's this tender little thing, and to take it out into the icy winds of Canada before it's ready for it, maybe it's never ready for it. But anyway, if you take the plant out too soon, it'll kill it. But if you leave it inside too long, it'll kill it, or it'll never become what it could have become. And so there is this real sweet spot. And I find me and most of my clients struggle with the transition of keeping it to yourself till you're ready to share it, and then sharing it can be very difficult. And yet it's entirely necessary, as far as I can see, at least if we're doing something that involves other people. If I'm going to try to be the best, I don't know, gardener in the world, then I can go out in my backyard and I can practice that without ever interacting maybe with another human being. But anything that we're doing that involves other human beings, well, even the garden example is probably not a good one, because that person would be on YouTube and everything else learning from others, right? Probably. So
Yeah, I think it's such an important point, right? The discernment of when to share and who you're sharing it with. I think it's so important, which is why, when we had chatted a little bit yesterday to prep for today, and I was like, I would really love to offer a somatic meditation that's like helping people feel like they're taking a new tool into spring with them, a tool of discernment. And you're like, yeah, we could totally do one about how to get orient somatically to what does it feel like to be bound around the right people who are going to be the ones that can connect you or give you the feedback or the support that you need so that it flies successfully. Because I think that
right.
I definitely have seen that in myself. I've seen that in my clients, right? Where we get really excited and we share with someone who is close to us.
Yes.
But they tend to not be aligned with the vision, maybe, or our worldview. And
Yeah.
that tends to happen a lot with family, right? That you'd be like, oh, I
Yeah.
got this big dream. And your family is like, that terrifies me. I'm afraid you're going to go broke.
Right. And
And so
they
they
just
try to
think we're weird, on top of that. We
right?
may not
So
be
they try to
their
talk around it.
aesthetic.
Yes. And so what you were saying, right? Like a perfectly wonderful dream exposed to the wrong person is not helping you germinate, right? Not helping you cross-pollinate in a way that's
Right.
going to be nourishing for the idea, or someone that can be honest and gentle, right? To say like, hey, I like this aspect of the idea,
Yeah.
but you might want to re-examine this part, right? Like I feel like it either goes two ways a lot of times. You either land in like the person who's like the yes person and says, that's amazing, you should do that, right? And they
Right.
give you like zero actual helpful feedback. Or it's the person that's like, that is so weird. I have no idea what you're talking about. I think you need to just get a job already.
I like the metaphor of the jazz musician playing in the country western bar. That the jazz
Yes.
musician could be incredible, and nobody knows that. And people are throwing popcorn or worse at the jazz. Please stop that infernal wailing. I don't understand what's happening right now.
Yes.
And the jazz musician thinks, I guess I suck, or my ideas suck. And then if you take the same jazz musician and you stick them in the right bar, all of a sudden it's like a cool glass of water. Like, who is that? Who is that
Yes.
genius? And so those country western people, can be in our own families. I think it can be good to learn discernment if we're going to do stuff for the rest of our lives in terms of sharing stuff with other people. It's good to probably develop a bit of discernment over which family members or friends are the right audience for that, so that we don't have to put them in a position of being a country lover, trying to appreciate our jazz, going, "Hi, I love you, Alex. Yeah, that's really good," um, and I think, I can also add one more thing to that too, that early in my self-employment, where I was an introvert forced into, having to make myself visible and so on, I hang on to my screen. I was very insecure. I might still have a bit of insecurity, of course, too. I'm a work in progress, but I was very insecure then, and so I needed the support of family, friends, my now wife, and so on, and they were supportive, but they could not give me everything that that deep hole required, you
Mhm.
know? And so, although they tried, it was never enough, for me because there was an insecurity at play there. So I think that's going on often too when we think about cross-pollinating, is that all of us have some insecurity, maybe quite a bit, especially if it's a new territory. Imagine that jazz musician has never played in public before. They were a great accountant, they were a great high school teacher. Jazz is brand new, and so they may feel very tender and very vulnerable. And it's possible that our loved ones are not the people to appreciate that. And maybe, yeah, so some discernment is helpful. If a plant could wander out and choose its soil, it would say, I'm an orchid, and that pine tree soil is terrible for me. So same with us as people and the ideas that we wield. I think it's good to try to discern what kind of soil we need for both of us to see what where our potential is. I have a lot of I'll stop here and let you get a word in. I have a lot of more aesthetic kinship. Would that be a good word to use? Um, with my clients in terms of all the weirdness about Alex than I do amongst my friends and family. And thankfully, I've been able to discern that so I don't have to think, why are they not supporting me? They do support me, but they're not quite the right music always.
Yes. Well, I think that's such an important thing to think about. Like you talk about the ecosystem of our life and our work and how they work together, and I think, recognizing that, okay, there's going to be some parts of our ecosystem that are family and they serve a different function in our life
Right.
than who
Right.
our
Right.
clients serve. And I'm also starting to notice the nuance, right, of how often am I showing up to a place, because everyone's like about networking. And that usually is how the best things come into my life, is through networking. But I have to be really intentional now to notice, okay, am I networking here because you are potential ideal clients?
Yeah.
Or am I networking here because you are potential like peers, right? That we can support
Right.
each other in our weirdness, right?
Oh,
Like
I totally get it. Yes.
in our worldview, because I'm noticing if I combine those two, and you were one of the first people that really taught me about this too, is like how often is our brain marrying two things? That our brain assumes these two things have to go together. And it's like, well, what happens if you separate them? And so I was like,
Right.
oh, can I intentionally go and network somewhere? And it's just about meeting peers and making friends.
Right.
And so I'm not
Right.
trying to put on like the selling my work hat, for
Yes.
example,
Yes. Yes.
because
Yes.
then I think then we end up with like resentment or that competitive energy, right? That doesn't serve us in any
Yes.
way. And
Yes.
I think that's something about springtime too, is that we start to think about like when and why we're connecting and cross pollinating. Is it because I socially need more nourishment? Is it because I, from a work perspective, need more nourishment, right? Is it I just need more joy in my life? I think being intentional in why we're connecting is
That's
also
great.
helps us understand the outcome, right? Like, are we aligning? Like, that phrase, plant where you're bloom where you're planted,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
I
I'm just
actually
trying to figure it all out. But yes, I've heard it.
right, like bloom where you've been planted. And I like, and then usually someone will put it, it's like a trite metaphor on Facebook, right? And it'll be like a flower, like a dandelion, and a crack in a sidewalk, and it's still blooming, right? And I was
Right.
like, can we talk about why the dandelion feels like it needs to be like wedged in between a seam and concrete to live its
Yeah, right,
life?
right, right. If it didn't have any choice in the matter, then yes, that's great
Right,
advice. But if you
right.
have some choice in the matter, that's dumb. Like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. So it was like last year I had recorded this voice note right after I'd moved to North Carolina that I was like, you know what? Like, I like, fuck that. I am so over the bloom where you were planted, because I think the more we have that discernment about like, am I in the right place? Am I showing up in the kind of places that are going to help me grow, that are going to be receptive to what I'm offering the world or who I am? It
Right,
makes a huge difference, because I realize how much I constantly, when I lived in Florida, was like, I feel like I am a salmon swimming upstream.
right.
Like, do you know how
Yeah,
much effort that
yeah.
takes to live like that? Right. And then I moved here to North Carolina and I was like, holy crap. I
Right,
don't have to explain the basics of like why nature is important. Like, people up here
right.
just already get that. Right. And so that was like another one of those kind of barriers to my work that was just adding another layer of effort that just wasn't needed. And I think the more we can start to give ourselves permission to be like, oh, oh, maybe this is not working because I'm not supposed to be in this space or with this group of people. How can I allow myself to connect to the places that are truly nourishing and generative rather than feeling like I'm doing it because I have to like
Oh,
check the
that's
box?
wonderful. I mean, that really brings an important nuance probably to the broad brushstrokes of your introduction to this about connecting and cross-pollinating in order to make things happen and mirroring the spring. Um, and yet there's a discernment that needs to take place. Like on broad brushstrokes, you could say, well, you're right. I need some more socializing my ideas or marketing or whatever it is that I'm up to, or even just I'm trying to find a new job. So I got to be out talking to people, whatever that is. So we can just rush out and start doing it. But again, if we think about that jazz musician in the country bar, like we got to make sure we're doing it in the right bar, or ideally not in a bar in those cases. But you're with the right who's, and when clients are trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives, Cara, you know this, you've heard me talk about it and you experience it yourself and have your own expertise on it, which is half that equation is the who. Half the equation might be the what. Like I am a Reiki master for actors. Like it's when you put the two together that the thing that the calling is really found, and within that design comes the solution of who should I be networking with or socializing with. Another nuance I'm going to add is method. I was told years and years ago, before the internet was really doing much of what, or social media certainly wasn't doing much of what it's doing now. And I was told I should go to trade shows and stuff. And in those days, I had my Reiki practice, but I had e-courses and meditation kits and stuff like that I was peddling, and how do I sell these things? And anyway, so went to a couple of trade shows, cost me more money than I had. And I'm terrible in a trade show. It's not my kind of easy spot to be, and so it just never worked out for me. And then the next one, I decided, A, I'm not going to pay for it, and B, I'm going to go anyway. And here's what I did. I went to a grocery store and bought this bag of fava beans that have not been cooked yet. They're beautiful beans. They're hard and quite large. I think it was
Yeah.
fava beans. They look beautiful anyway, like the kind of beans you'd want to touch. And I put them in a little wooden box, a treasure chest, and had a bunch of slips of paper. And on the slip of paper was simply a URL that you type in, bigdreamprogram.com/treasure or something like that. And on that page, I had put a bunch of freebies, like here's a free meditation or something. No opt-in, no nothing. No, just here you go. And I wandered through the crowd of the trade show, and I said, "Did you get your magic bean? What are you talking? No, what? Oh, you didn't get a magic? Oh, here." So I'd hand them a bean and one of these slips of paper, and I'd walk away. Right? So people are going, "What the fuck is this?" I got hundreds of hits on that webpage afterwards, and every other trade show I had done, I like nothing, like zero. And so I'd say there's another nuance too to this cross-pollination. I don't know how plants do it, but I wouldn't be surprised they have a diverse set of tools at their disposal. An oak tree might do things differently than a dandelion, than a air plant, for instance, or something. So finding our own tools, and that can make it more fun.
Yeah. Oh God, I love that. The magic bean. It's like guerrilla marketing, right?
I loved it. And I'm kind of naturally a little bit mischievous, and I can pull off like the glint in the eye. And of course they're going to go to the URL like, what
Now
was
I gotta
that?
know.
Yeah. So, that was a little bit more using my strengths, I think, than trying to use my weaknesses to socialize my work in the world. You and I are talking about business, but all of us, well, I think most of us at least, have things that we're trying to socialize in the world. Maybe we want to change the world with our opinions. Maybe we want to get everyone to recycle. Maybe we want to convince other parents to have less screen time for their kids. There's something we're hoping to share with the world. Some version of our music inside. And so all of these things matter probably to all of us. Personal things, you're getting kicked out of your apartment, you need a new apartment. I see this quite often, of course, in this monetary climate, and it's connections. It's people reaching out through dozens and dozens of connections. Do you know anybody that has a
Fill in the
kind of thing?
blank.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it's funny because I think that that's something I've struggled with for the last, like post COVID, so much of the business world moved online.
Mm,
And it became this like very instantaneous, oh, here are the methods, right? Here are the only way to do this, that type of perspective about how we engage the world. And so I fell into those because I was like, well, I don't know how to do online
yeah,
business.
right,
I'm going to have to follow
right,
the experts, right?
right.
And all it did was make me more burnout and more broke. And I was like, okay, what's that all about? And so I started leaning into more about studying astrology to
Mm,
understand how people are wired differently. And that's
right,
something that's helped me as a diagnostic tool working with clients and even myself to start to be like, oh, I am literally not wired for social media or the kind of engagement that doesn't have real
right,
personal interaction and connection. I am
right,
not like a for the masses. That's not how I work. And so when
right.
I started letting go of trying to do that, it was like, oh, it was like a giant relief. Like you were saying that,
Wow.
you to go to the trade show and do the magic being like, oh, this is fun.
Yes.
And look, it freaking worked, right? And so
Yeah.
I think the more we start to lean into what feels like a natural expression of who we are and feels
Mm,
fun rather than like, oh God, I'm having to do this thing, I
yes.
think makes a huge difference, but I feel like not a lot of people talk about it because honestly, they're like trying to sell a program and they're trying to sell
Yeah.
something, right? And so they don't fully, I think, help people. I think their marketing is so good, they make everyone think they need it. And they
Right.
do not
Right.
enough work to help people filter whether or not this expensive program is actually going to work for them specifically.
Totally. Totally.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
So I love that thought about like, doing more of the somatics. And I don't know when you want to do it, but the somatic meditation that you had mentioned yesterday about starting to feel that, what does that resonance feel like in our body when we are around the right people?
Right.
So that when we're in that moment and we're talking to someone and we can start to like have a moment of presence of that to be like, oh, this person actually feels like they would be really aligned, even though your mind may be like, I don't know, but the body can be like, hey, no, I feel this. This is like, you should
Right.
share,
The jazz
right?
musician noticing, noting
Yeah.
the jazzstar. I can, this person is somehow on my wavelength, and it doesn't mean they're a client or an instant hub or something, but it may be that maybe a peer, but it may be that they know the person that opens up everything for you
Hmm. Yeah, because I think
because they're the right vibe.
yes, and I think it's really important, right? And this is something too that I've learned from you over the years about like inviting people to share your things when you're trying to connect and get out into the world rather than being like,
Yeah.
hey, do you want to buy this thing? Instead, it's sending and sharing. I mean, like, hey, do you know anyone? Like, when you read this, does this sound like anyone you know? Did they come to mind? And if so, would you be open to sharing it with them? Just
Yeah.
no pressure, but because it's very different, right, than like the kind of like marketing sales tactics. I think
Right.
that we're taught that we're supposed to use,
Yeah.
and that felt much more natural for me in the way that my energy moves, and it also feels a lot more aligned because I think the big dream program is really like getting down to like the soul of who we are and what we want to offer in the world and how we want to show up in the world. And I think when we're moving from that place, we can't move by the usual rules. I feel like we have to be in that more somatic kind of inspired place to follow those cues that our brain is not going to be like, this is not part of the logic model. This doesn't make sense. But when you're
That's
moving from that
true.
deeply inspired soul place, the soul is going to know stuff and the body is going to know things that our brain won't understand. And so we have to be able to start being able to hear both of the brain wisdom and the body wisdom to figure out where we want to go next.
I love the way you put that. Yes, so true. And it's not just a nice to have. Hard lessons from me that resulted in, terrifying nights. How am I going to pay my mortgage or whatever tomorrow? Like, hard lessons were that I can't keep stuff to myself until it's perfect or whatever. Um, my biggest lesson came from before I had the Big Dream program. I had a a program I was trying to pitch around the world called the 1000 Reiki Project, and it was at that time I had a Reiki clinic, and I was probably voted by my teacher and my peers that I started Reiki with to be the least likely to ever do anything with it. And I had a practice for years, and I thought, I know there's other Reiki masters and whatnot that would just love to maybe do this for a living. And so it was like a business course for you're bringing your passion for Reiki. Here's the way I approached it. Some people listening to this are going to go, oh, yes, I know that. Here's the way I approached it. Was work on it for like 6 months. Don't tell anybody. Like, this is amazing. Spend weeks on some piece of graphics or something, like that. Amazing course and whatnot. And I had a client who was willing to barter with me. And so she became my assistant, and man, this was great. And this was pre-social media do it. And so she had found the email addresses of 600 Reiki masters around the world in different listings. And we were emailing them and that kind of thing. You know what? I sold 32 of these courses and I needed like 200 to break even, let alone, and a couple of thousand to do well. 32. And I really pushed him, and that was a hard lesson, and it struck home, and I couldn't afford my mistake, really. And I thought, I'll never do that again. And I made a vow to myself that when I have an idea for some kind of a workshop, something I want to float out in the world, I'll have it out in 3 days. And it's not that I'm trying to put out something less okay. The way I do it is I say, I'm thinking of doing this. I'll put the work into it. Let me know if you're interested. I need 13 people minimum to have a go at this. I do this every time. We just finished 5 months of a somatic club. It's now concluded. That's how I did it. I need X amount of people. Is anybody interested? If I get 0 hits from that, I don't put the time into it. I move on to the next thing. There's more songs in me than that. And if this song is going to fall flat, I'm sure you too had songs that fell flat, then I'm just not going to put the time into it.
Yes.
I had a point in all of that, and I'm passionately telling my story, and I don't know what I was trying to say. I think cross-pollinating versus not.
Yes. Well, it is. I think it is really important because we can get so like enamored with an idea, right? And sometimes our ego will get like really attached to it, right? It's like,
Right.
this is the thing. I
And
can't
maybe
wait.
a little bit desperate too. Like maybe we need some cash flow or something. So we're really clinging to this. It's better to find out in 3 days.
Yeah.
Than
Yeah.
30.
Well, and I love because the way you say it, right, is, and I've seen you do your float outs, right? Like you're putting enough detail in that it's clear that you have an idea of what it is. It's not like, you can do it in a way that feels very flip and people are like, well, I don't want to commit to that because it doesn't.
Yeah, that's right.
True.
Yeah.
So you always put enough, right? So you always put enough in there so that we get an idea of what it is that you have in mind. Versus, I think a lot of times in the more traditional business world, right? Like I've seen people come with an idea and I'm like, have you spent like 3 seconds thinking about this? Right. Like there's like no thought behind it. They're just kind of like speaking right off the top of their head, which is fine. But I watch a lot of those people that are constantly like there's no filtering process at all. I'm watching them just exhaust themselves in their finances, right? Because they're just kind of chasing the next shiny thing. So I love because, the way I teach about the seasons and the energy, right, is that there's a space to cross-pollinate and and get feedback. Then that moves out into creation. You think about like the trees right now in spring, right? They're flowering. And then in summer, the flowers become fruit.
Right.
And then in the fall, we start to harvest the lessons of what worked. And then we start to release what didn't work. So we don't take it into the next cycle. And that's a sense of completion. So then in winter, we genuinely rest. We're going back into our roots. We're nourishing ourselves. We're going back in for inner inspiration and really replenishing the energy stores that we have before we come back out and come into that season of water energy of connection again. And so I think there's a lot of people that they live in that fire of creation all the time. Right. And that's when I see
perpetual spring.
Well, it's like perpetual summer, right? Like they aren't even fully connecting. They're just like trying to like vomit content and stuff out into the world all the time. Like, the old phrase, like throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks.
Right.
It's like at some point you run out of stuff to throw against the wall because
the wall's covered. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny. Like here I'm watching, I think of spring, the connection energy. I teach from like an elemental perspective and bringing in like the ecosystem intelligence and rhythm that the world is working, and how do we apply that to our human systems, and having the pattern recognition to start to see how the energy moves through things.
Yes.
And I'm watching here, at
Yeah.
least, yeah, like here in North Carolina, every time it rains, because we're in early spring, every time it rains, like the next day, everything is like bing, right? Like that water of connection, it's like priming the well. And so, like I cut a branch off of one of the trees that was getting ready to flower in my yard, because the branch is like right in your face when you walk out the door. And so I was like,
Right.
I'll trim the branch.
You're
And
gonna repurpose that branch. Yeah.
yeah, and my son was like all excited. So he put it in a jar of water, and he wants to see what's going to happen. And so the branch is on my kitchen table, and it's already ding, right? I gave it a bunch of water, and now it's just blooming like crazy. But
Wow.
the tree outside hasn't really started blooming yet. And I was like, oh, it's waiting for another pulse of rain. And so I think that's something we see, that connective water energy is so nourishing and nurturing.
Oh,
And that's what takes those seeds of inspiration from the winter we've been in, right? All that inner work we're doing. It starts to water those seeds so they can bloom out, to be like, oh, how do we want to show up in the world? How does this want to take form in the world?
right.
And gives us an opportunity to kind of reflect and bounce ideas with people so that it strengthens it rather than just wilts on the vine.
Something I've always learned from our interactions is I tend to be a kind of I think I am kind of an in the moment sort of guy. Like if you asked me what I ate yesterday, I wouldn't be able to tell you. Today is, the full canvas for a guy like me. And so it makes it tougher for me to see patterns, even in a whole week. Okay, if I have two bad sleeps kind of thing, I'm having bad sleeps these days. No, you had two bad sleep. Yeah, I don't tend to be able to see those larger patterns. Uh, you do. I think that's one of your many, but one of the primary ninja skills that you always bring to the table in our conversations. You'll say, Alex, well, everything you're just telling me, and then you'll bring in astrology, or you'll bring in Chinese medicine, or you'll bring in some other pattern recognition thing, and you'll say, well, based on what we know about you, kind of thing. And I'll go, well, look at there, and it's very freeing and enlightening and cool to see those patterns. Especially for someone who's wired like me, or I don't know if I'm wired that way or if I just am that way. But anyway, to be able to see your patterns makes a big difference. We had a conversation yesterday talking about this conversation, and one of them was I said that I don't feel super connected to the seasons in the same way that you do, and maybe I should be. But that said, I could also see metaphorically how your seasons apply kind of fractally to the parts of my life. If you take one project like the Somatic Club kind of thing, then your seasons all apply there, including my abilities and moods during and after. You're talking about the winter season, the composting and things like that, is that once a thing is over, often I think I'm going to get right on to the next thing, and I try, but my brain doesn't work. I have brain fog and kind of tiredness, and I'm all over the map, and it's like my navigation system has kind of gone haywire. But when I can see the pattern, I can see that that's supposed to happen right now, and it would be better if I didn't fight it. It would actually last less time if I didn't fight it and
Yes.
went with other types of activities.
Yeah.
And so being able to see the pattern is both very freeing and makes it more likely that I can succeed in the ways that I care about with what I'm doing.
Yeah. Well, I think some of that is like the dissonance of the mind, right? That the mind is like, well, everything's supposed to be linear, and I just keep moving forward and I just do the next thing. But we give the mind a framework and we teach it pattern recognition, then it starts to be like, oh, right. So I completed the thing, I harvested the lessons, I'm closing it up, and now I take some time to rest and
Right.
wait for the inspiration to move through. And I take time to nourish myself, right? And listen to my body and ask what do I feel like I need to do next before I just jump into something.
Right. Right.
And I think you're right too. I we can talk about the seasons, and everyone kind of thinks it's just, the seasons as they move throughout the year. I tend to teach it that way first, because no matter if someone had like knows nothing about nature, there's still that inner child part of them that recognizes like, oh,
Mm,
trees bloom in spring, they fruit in summer, they drop their leaves in fall, and
right,
they rest in winter, right? There's that very base level that we can primarily relate to.
right.
But that same cycle, it can move through the day, right? Like you think we're like resting at night. And then we get up in the morning, we've got some inspiration, and maybe we send some emails and we talk to some
Mm,
people,
mhm.
right? Like you start to think about it that way. And then maybe by midday, you're feeling like, okay, I'm going to write this article or put this piece together. And then by the late afternoon, it's starting to wrap up the day. And you're like, okay, well, what did I like about this article? Or what else do I need to do for tomorrow? And then like, okay, I'm going to go back into resting for the night, right? Like
Right.
it's the way, you know, like you practicing Reiki for many years, we talked about this. Like you can think about how energy moves from like the elemental perspective, like fire, earth, air, and water, and spirit, if you want to say five. And I think that's like a primal language that humans have had for
Mm. Right,
thousands of years. Like
right,
we see that showing up in Chinese medicine and Ayurveda and practices in the Amazon, right? Like it's not just
right.
a new age thing. And I think it's because it's that easy frame of reference, because you're like, well, what does fire look and feel like? Okay, well, if I have a campfire, what happens, right? Like it starts small and I have to breathe life into it, and then it's a roaring fire and I have to keep feeding it, and then it starts to die down and it turns into coals that look like they're breathing,
Mm,
but you can transform food and cook on the coals and gather around it, right? Like it starts to teach you the quality of that energy
right, right. And
in a
its
metaphor
utility and
that's,
how to, I don't know, but tame isn't the right word, but channel it. How about that?
yeah, yeah, channel, it's a great word for that. And so
Yeah,
that's a lot of the work I'm trying to do is helping people sort of shift into how do I have a framework that gives my mind a sense of structure so it doesn't
right.
run away with me, and
Yeah,
it feels like peace in the moment of like, oh no, I'm supposed to rest now. Okay,
yeah,
I can shut down all the overthinking for a while.
right.
Yeah. So I think that's something that, you know, for me is trying to work through this process of how to translate what I see happening in the natural world in a way that people who are not as connected to the natural world, like you said, you're like, well, the seasons just don't resonate for me as much. It's not part of the way I live my life. And that's great, right? And so how do we figure out ways that it lands
I
for
don't know
people?
if it is great or not, actually, but I'm just aware that it could be a weakness at the same time. I still can relate to what you're saying
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah. Cause I, you know, for a long time, I think I got lost in a lot of the really specific languaging and the jargon,
Okay,
right? Of like
okay.
Chinese medicine and astrology, right? Like there's all these different types of living systems that I
Mm,
have access to, and even ecology, right? That I have spent many years being steeped in.
right.
So I'm constantly like, how do I bridge this language? How do I communicate and translate this language in a way that connects with people, right? Rather than creating confusion, how do we create more connection with the words that we're using in a very intentional way?
When I think of you carrying around these understandings, and you're working with leaders who are doing really important things in the world, stuff that we're all going to be appreciative of, and we're all going to be the beneficiaries of, people who are doing good work, innovative work. Um, Two things are required, I think, or at the very least make it easier, but I think they might be requirements. Is one is that person has to operate a little bit differently than the average normal person. Almost like an elite athlete has to pay attention to things that schmoes like me don't. People doing leadership work, or they want to, or they want to, I want to make a difference in the world and so on. If we could apply that elite athlete thinking to it, it may be that they need to understand more about how they roll, how they operate in this world, and getting away from that typical kind of self-help individualism kind of stuff. We don't have to throw it away. It's just that the individual belongs in an ecosystem. So all of that thinking is important for them to be able to achieve what they want to, um, and survive it. And secondly, it might be, this is what I was going to say about requirement. If we actually want work that's innovative, that moves the needle in the world and actually changes things that matter and not just band-aids, then probably some form of different thinking and innovation and different approaches, not just the ideas, but how they're carried, um, needs to happen as well. And so the kinds of understandings that the system understandings that you have individual understandings too, but you have this kind of systems mind um, that is critical, probably, for people in that position. I think if I was in that position, and maybe I am, I don't know, but if I was in that position, I would be crazy not to listen to what you have to say about these topics, because I think it's going to be crucial.
Thank you. I think that, when the world is asking for something new, we can't create something new from the old ways of being. I think
Right,
innovation requires us to
right.
think in new ways. And I think that we've also lost a lot of context that, indigenous cultures around the world for thousands of years connected with the earth in a way that was seeing it as a teacher and a
Mm,
companion or in relationship with it. And
okay.
I think that, you know, I I spent like 20 years in academia and like really high level policy work in the environmental world and on Capitol Hill and the number of like systems for project management, right? Or logic models for your strategy or personality tests to determine how like what part of a team member you are, right? Like all
Mm,
these things that the
mhm.
human mind would come up with. And it was some new complicated system that you had to memorize, right? And I would do these things and I'd be like, wow, that didn't make me a better manager. It did not help me solve what just failed, right? Like it was just here, let's spend another, 3 months wallowing around in the palace of our mind, right?
Right,
And not
right,
bothering to like get out into the world and have conversations that ask deep questions about like, hey, this is the way we've always done things, but does that mean we should continue to do them this way?
right,
And for
right.
me, that was always like it was a really awkward place to be, if I'm being like really frank
Yeah,
about it.
sure, sure it was, yeah.
Because I was always the person that would ask the question that would be like, I'd be like, well, why are we doing it this way when, whatever, this system doesn't seem to actually be working? And then there would be like like
Because
that
we spent
moment.
$1 million on it.
Yes, because the
It was in the
funder gave
budget.
us $1 million to do this, right? Like, so
Right.
I laughed that I was like, the number of times people have said to me, wow, I've never actually said that out loud before. Right. And I
Wow.
think being able to like have these kind of safe spaces for connection where we can have this space for reflection with other people to honestly admit like, hey, why are we doing it this way?
Right,
Like, don't we need to do something different? And what would that look like? So that's where for me it started, was like, how do we start to realize that there's already all these patterns available to us in the living world? It's showing us how things work. That's like the earth has been sustaining life for millions of years, moving
right,
through very basic cycles of energy patterns, right? And you think about like in the middle of winter, like especially around here, we have mostly leafy deciduous trees. We have some pines, right? Like some evergreens. And so I was like, huh, isn't that fascinating that right now we can have most of our trees are bare. And sure, I have a smattering of pine trees, but somehow there's still enough oxygen for us to breathe. Huh. You can wonder about that, right? Like
yeah,
that's kind of essential. And I was like, wow, it almost makes you think that there's a system and a way that things have been designed to ensure life that will continue. Why don't we bring some of that wisdom into the world rather than clearly the use everything at all costs for the maximum benefit of only a few people, like this extractive way of relating to the world, which also I watch it like the number of times people have been over extracted from an organization or a business that they worked for, right?
burned out from them, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
My
So
practice is full of them. That's often, the one of the catalysts that drives someone out into, "I wanna do my own thing now," and, "Uh-oh, I don't know what my own thing is," and
yes, exactly. So I think that the more we can start relating in this new way, because I think we're also, honestly, working in the environmental world for a long time, I was watching people be like, well, we can create these financial incentives and that's what'll get people to do the right thing. And I was like, yeah, but that's only you're arguing with their mind about doing the right thing.
mhm,
And so as soon as the financial incentives stop working, what is it that their heart really wants to do? Because
wow,
that's what they're going to default back to. That's what's truly sustainable. And so I was like, well, shit, I'm watching all these things fall apart. because people are like just following the mind in the very logical way of approaching something, a very
Right.
linear way of seeing the world rather than all the complexity of the interconnected relationships
Right.
and the connections that are available to us. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go understand human beings. Like, why do
Yes.
human beings make decisions the way they do? Why does their mind ignore their body and be in conflict with their heart? Like, what do those dynamics look like?
Right.
And and at the end of the day, it was so fascinating to me because before um oh, I'm totally blanking on her name right now. Oh my gosh, the woman. Oh my God, she just passed. The woman who Jane Goodall. There we go. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
That's
Yes.
a
Yes.
brain moment.
Yes.
So I was able to see Jane Goodall speak in person a few years ago. I took my daughter to see her. And she got up and she was speaking about, all the wonderful, amazing things she's done in the world. And a lot of people don't always know that she also started an organization called Roots and Shoots. And it was really about recognizing that she was trying to change all these policy things in the world. And she basically literally, Alex, said almost the same words I had been saying in like my own work and my
Mm.
website. Right. I mean, you hear someone like at the level of Jane Goodall say that. And I was like, thank you for that affirmation.
Yeah. Right.
Right. Like,
Yeah.
thank you that she's like, we can do all the policy change and laws in the world, but if the hearts of the people aren't in it and aren't accounted for and participating and invested, that change is not going to last. It
Right.
just literally cannot. And I was
Right.
like,
We won't survive the next election, kind of thing.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I was just so grateful for that like moment of like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm seeing too. Thank you for that.
Right.
And so I think it, coming back around to connection in the season of spring that we're in, is I think a lot of times the first thing that goes in a big project or a work, right, is we drop connection first. We get disconnected from the people or nurturing the relationships.
And from
That's
ourselves, from parts of ourselves. Like I left my heart behind somewhere here. Suddenly, this project isn't even what I wanted in the first place.
yes, right. Or I left my body behind, and my body,
Yeah.
like I say, right, like my mind is writing checks, my body cannot cash.
Oh, that's good. That's really good. Nice.
And so that's what I was like, how do we bring more of that awareness about nurturing connection before, because let's be honest, right? Like the political, geopolitical, everything that's happening in the world right now, like 2026 is starting out to be quite a impactful year, we'll say, right?
Yeah.
And I think that if
Yeah.
if we jump right into the fire of trying to do and change and create action and impact, but we don't tend to nurture the relationships and the foundation
Mm-hmm.
that are needed to truly support that in a sustainable way, then I think, and I used to see this too, like eco fatigue, right? People
Right.
who are really passionate in the environmental and the conservation world,
Yeah.
they're having extreme amounts of burnout, and it's compassion fatigue, really. And
Right.
if we are
Right.
taking the time to nourish our connection to ourselves and to those around us, um, we're going to burn out before the end of 2026. We aren't going to
Yeah.
think clearly or have the resources we need to make impactful choices in the world.
Yes. 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 Oh my goodness. Yes. Oh, there's so much to say there. I wouldn't even pull a thread of that, but the whole, we'll be here for hours.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
so
what I'm going to
true.
what I'm going to invite you to do then, if you're game, if you still want to do it, this might be a
Totally.
nice time to do your somatic practice exercise that you were thinking about offering, because that way
Yeah.
we could do that for maybe another 10 minutes or so before we
Yep.
wrap up, if that works for you.
That sounds just great. That sounds just
Okay,
great. So,
great.
my thinking on this somatic meditation, for anybody listening who doesn't know somatic, it's body based, essentially. We're looking for body reactions and how your body feels in the setup that we make. I can't imagine it would be triggering or traumatic for anybody, but somatic meditation can be that for some people. So, just make your own discernments as a listener. But here's what I'm thinking. Let me just explain what the meditation is going to be about, because I think the setup, the learning of it might be even better than the meditation itself, because then you can do it yourself later. Here's the setup I'm thinking, is that if you had, I'm going to pick a number, but I'm making up the number. If you had 15 people around you assembled in your life right now, maybe you don't know any of them yet, but if you had 15 people that were all the doorways that you need it right now, and not just for you selfishly, they like you too, like you're really helpful. 15 people that would help you get exactly where you feel like you are meant to go. And you've been banging on walls, banging on doors, and maybe not getting as far as you want to. These 15 people open all the doors you need, maybe for the rest of your life, because of who they know and stuff. Let's imagine those 15 people were around you right now. That's what we're going to do, and see how your body feels about that. The theory that I'm working with, it's 18 years going, so, or more actually. So I tend to think this actually plays out, but it is a theory that if our body gets used to a thing, the 15 people are more apt to show up, or we're more apt to recognize them when we see them, or we're more apt to go out the door and make it more likely we are going to meet them in the first place. So I think there's a highly practical value of this. Okay, so get you to close your eyes, sit as comfortably as you can, and take a few nice deep breaths. Each time you breathe out, let your body sink a little bit heavier down into the chair. If I fall asleep, Cara, you need to wake me up there so I can finish the meditation.
Deal.
Each time you breathe out, feel your body get a little bit heavier where you're sitting right now. If you're driving, best not do this. You'll be off the road. Why are we doing this? Again, the theory in somatic meditation is that we're made of energy inside, and that energy tends to pool wherever we're using it the most and need it the most. So we've been doing a lot of talking. Your brain is trying to process all this, never mind all the other challenges in your life. So a lot of your energy may be pooled inside your head and skull and neck and upper chest. Hello, anxiety. And so when we breathe out and just let the body get a little bit heavier in the chair, what I believe is happening is some of your own gorgeous energy is balancing out, is drifting downwards. Like a bunch of musicians that should have been in their chairs and they all ran into the kitchen for coffee. There's too many of them in a small place. Each time you breathe out, the musicians that you're made of, all going back to their chairs throughout your body, picking up instruments. And stop to notice the skin on the bottom of your left foot. See if you can feel it. See if you can feel whatever is touching the skin on your left foot. Maybe it's a sock or a slipper or a floor or the air. And do the same with the skin on the bottom of your right foot. Why do we do this? It wakes up our awareness of our body, and we're about to do something that may cause interesting, intriguing reactions or sensations in your body. So we want your body awareness as awake as possible. Feeling the bottom of your feet gets those musicians down through your legs and your feet. Now, the rest is simple. The setup was the hard part. Imagine 15 perfect people for you were suddenly sort of around you in your universal space. Maybe it's like a room around you. We don't have to belabor the details of that. What your body cares about is you're in a nice place and you've got the 15 people you need now to open up the doors. To what? Even to clarity. If you're sitting in a fog thinking, I don't know what I'm here to do in this world or what I'm doing next, it may be another person that helps bring that clarity. So these 15 people, they operate on different levels. They have different roles. Some of them will help you with confusion, some of them with bravery, some of them with connections, some of them with recovering a piece of your personality and heart maybe you left behind decades ago. These are the 15 people you need, but it's not a selfish equation. It turns out that amongst the billions of people on the planet, you happen to be what they needed too. An ecosystem. Take a few breaths and just see what it feels like to be in your body with those 15 people somewhere spatially around you. They're not crowding you, they're not on top of you, but they're around you. They're in your life now. The spirit here of a somatic meditation is a workhorse. You may get a big giant epiphany. You may not. This is like body practice for dancers, for acrobats. This is giving your body the time to get accustomed to having those 15 people around. That's it. So, however mundane or interesting it might be, see if you can feel the set of sensations inside your skin. Does the upper half of your body feel proportionally accurate, let's say, compared to the lower half? Is one half especially small or big? What about the left half of your body and the right half? If we think about comparing those two, do they feel the same or do they feel a little different? Are there any parts of your body that feel bizarrely missing right now? You can't feel your leg at all or a foot. And finally, let your body give you an answer to this instead of having to intellectually figure it out. Where it might be a new territory here for you, so your body might need to help you with answers. If you're wrong, no harm. But if you're right, this could be a game changer right now. So you got these 15 people spatially around you. What's one part of your body right now that is delighted about that? Write that down. Remember that after our call. We'll be finished this meditation in 2 minutes, probably, but that spot might be a keeper. Here's what I'm going to suggest as a theory. You don't have to take my word for it. I just a theory. If you take it into considerations and try it, if you wish. And that is, what if this part of the body you just saw is the number one breakthrough point to help these 15 people find you and to help you find them and the behaviors and actions and universe serendipity that might have to go into it. Here's a challenge for anybody who wants to try it. It's a bit extreme. And that is, what if you don't try to find these 15 people for the next 3 days? Don't try much of anything. You don't have to, is the challenge. And instead, spend those 3 days getting to know that part of your body more than you ever have in your whole life, and maybe more than anyone else on the planet right now. What if your only job was to observe that part of your body? Notice it all the different times during the day. Notice it when you're with your people you love. Notice it when you're feeling lonely. Notice it when you're working or frustrated. Notice it when you're walking down the sidewalk. The theory of somatic meditation, the promise, I would say, of it, it has been for me, which is this: observation itself is the healing force. You don't have to figure out anything, just observation alone. So the theory or the thing to try here is that if you focus on that spot for 3 full days, make it a brand new love affair, and it's all you wanna think about for 3 days, that what you observe will try to heal itself. If that part of your body has something to do for you right now, maybe some unfolding, some emerging, something, maybe it's all clenched in there, maybe it needs to relax a little bit. Whatever it needs, it can figure it out itself, but we'll do so while we're observing it. Let me try to prove it to you before we begin. Notice if there's any tension in your shoulders just now. If there was, you will have relaxed them a tiny bit. The awareness alone sparked the change, whether the change is subconscious or active. Same here. You focus on that spot in your body, it will spark change. So, to the spirit of Cara's topic here today, and cross-pollination and socializing ideas and connection, especially in the right seasons for it and with the right people, here you have the 15 people you may wish to be connected with for the rest of your lifetime. This may be it in a beautiful way. It's all you need and more. And here you are with your body getting used to it, and the one spot that will help unlock all of this. So take all of that into consideration. See if it feels important or resonates with you. Write it down after we finish here. Meanwhile, you can stay with all those things if you want, but we need to talk a little bit more. So I'm going to get you to start moving your body, moving your joints. We'll bring the meditation to a conclusion. Open your eyes when you're ready. And that may be a way we can bring the body equation into it. And I didn't think it was important in my early life. Now I think it's critical. It's like you're learning, you join Cirque du Soleil and you're trying to learn how to do a backflip, and you don't focus on the right part of your body, you land on your head every time, I'm told. I've never done it. Same here. We want to do big things in this world, whatever that is, not ego stuff, but you got big shit to do. You got to carry big buckets, got to have your muscles for them. Then the body, I think, has to be involved. And this might be a way that we can change the game a little bit, unlock some things.
Oh,
Okay.
it was so good, Alex. It always is. And I love how the invitation at the end of the meditation was one of rest rather than push, right? About take the 3 days to just observe. Because that's something I've noticed in my own work and with clients, that a lot of times we think we're resting, but really we're thinking, which is not the same. And so I think that is perfect, because I've noticed if I'm really pushing on something, even if I'm just mentally pushing on it, right? Like you're kind of obsessing about it, that
Yes.
activity is all up here. But when I intentionally, and sometimes my body will force it, right? Something will
Yeah.
go wrong in my body, and then I'm like, okay, I guess I'm not working this week and I
Right.
need to rest. Um, then when that happens, and I actively am like, nope, maybe I'm gonna paint, or I'm gonna go for a walk, or I'm gonna sit by the fire with the cats, or I'm gonna listen to an audiobook, right? Like nothing outcome oriented, right? That it's just about like, oh, what would feel nice in my body right now, or what would feel
Right.
good in my heart right now.
Right.
When I give myself a specific set of time, like I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it for a week, or I'm gonna do it for 2 days, or whatever. Every time, without fail, at the end of that, by either the last day or the next day after, something breaks through.
You got to break through.
Every time. Every time. And so I think what you're offering is like such a perfect version of that we forget how often we're like, well, I got to get in there and fix it and did it right. I got to mess with it. And rather than being like, no,
Right.
maybe what it just needs is presence and connection.
And to calm someone like me who's a very impatient man, like, let's get on with stuff, it's a character flaw, perhaps a personality, but to calm someone like me, I've just been able to now uh, tell myself, just be historically accurate, is that it's the quickest way to get there. And so again, if we use athletes as an example, which I'm not, but I hear about them all the time. If you use athletes as an example, they can't train all the time. They won't break through their thresholds if they train all the time. There's all kinds of not just rest, but strategic rest, very particular kinds of rest that are 100% crucial for them to get. Why should we be any different?
Yeah. Yeah, because I think we think of rest as this passive process.
Mm,
And sometimes it is, right? Sometimes it is like we need to sleep more. Sometimes we need to sit, right, more. But rest is also about renewal. And so
right.
it's about doing those things that nourish and renew us
Wow.
without doing them because we feel like we're supposed to do something else, right? Like, oh, I'm
Right.
going to paint because I want to sell the painting, right? No, 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 no. It's what is it like? Oh, I want to listen to that audiobook, or I want to make a fire just because it brings me joy, or I want to go for a walk just because I like listening to the birds, right? Not because I need to exercise today, right? Like, how
Yes.
can we shift into a rest and renewal phase, which we also tend to skip, particularly as Americans, and Western culture. And
Yeah.
so that's something I think that somatic meditation is really, it's a very intentional, doing that program with you this year has been like, oh, it's been huge because it's, especially in the season of winter, which is our rest and renewal phase,
Mm,
been helping me take more of those intentional moments. Because a lot
right.
of times I would, as a practitioner, I'll observe something, be like, oh crap, I need to fix that, right? And it's like, no, no, no,
Right.
no. We're just watching, we're observing. What does it look, taste, or feel like? Does it have a color? Does it have a shape, right? And
Yes.
so the mind feels busy, but not in a way that's like it's in there messing with things, right?
Just doesn't work.
Hmm.
I'm very delighted. What's the word I'm looking for? Is bigger than delighted. Anyway, I'm relieved and delighted and whatever that your leadership clients get to hear this kind of stuff, because I think we've made pretty good arguments today that seem to make, it's not our opinions, it just seems to be common sense, a lot of these things, but it's just that it's common sense we don't think to bring into these types of equations in our lives that we typically approach only with the brain. But often when we hear some good arguments for these other things we've been talking about, they kind of make, just common sense and make a project easier and more expeditious, more likely to succeed. It ticks all the boxes, including the bottom line and the many bottom lines. And so I'm delighted that the people, the leaders you're working with get access to that, because as you discovered in your earlier life when you were doing that type of policy work and so on, that's in pretty short supply in those rooms, in those arenas. That's not being discussed. Imagine the early boardrooms from decades ago. The boardrooms wouldn't have had meditation or anything kind of self-helpy. They would have laughed at that kind of thing. Not now. The most successful boardrooms are the ones where you'll find a whole manner of healing stuff, going on, um, because it's just because it works, just because it makes sense.
Yeah.
And so the kinds of projects that your people are going to be able to wield because of this, that they wouldn't have been able to wield otherwise, or they would have burned out from, is a very exciting thing and should be very exciting for all of us, because their projects, as I said earlier, benefit all of us and our kids in particular, growing up after I'm gone to be the kids. And the projects that your clients do will affect their lives.
Yeah.
So eh, it's just great topics to wield in this world, Cara. I'm so glad you're doing it.
Oh, thank you, Alex. I've just, the practice that I have grown into has been a big part of my work with you and having deeper conversations with myself and with you and with others in your program about what do I really want the ecosystem of my life to look like for me personally, but also
Mm,
professionally, so that
mhm.
it feels truly sustainable and nourishing,
And
and
very
then
you.
right, and then my outer life is a genuine reflection of my inner life and who I
Right.
am and what my values are and what's important to me. And so I just am really grateful that the way that you see the world has helped me reorganize the way that I see the world too.
It's wonderful. One of these days, we'll have another conversation for anybody who's interested about both Cara and I have lots of hours, days, years experience of our lives have been spent underwater.
Yeah.
Both of us had a past career that involved us being underwater. We won't get into that now, or we'll be talking for another hour. But that'll be a conversation for another time, because I think that forced lessons on me, being underwater, and I gathered the same from you.
Yes, yes, it did.
You can't fight the ocean.
No, yeah, I think there's the earth is a great teacher, and she is not one of those that you can argue with. She's like,
Mm,
this is what it is. How would you like to work with it? Right. Which is very different than I think a lot of us in our modern urban lives are used to.
yeah.
And
You
so it
can
requires
force a lot of stuff on the land, and you can force a lot of stuff in the city and all that kind of. You
Mhm.
can't force a lot in the ocean.
No, it requires a lot of creativity and fortitude.
And
Different.
working with it, channeling it, instead of putting up barriers and walls and fighting it, which inevitably the first storm will knock down.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Well, thank you, my friend. This has been such a delight. I hope that
I
everyone that
loved
is
it.
watching now, thank you for being here live. Thank you for those who watch in the future. I hope you enjoy it, and hope you'll check out Alex on his Big Dream program. He has a Substack page here, but he also has the bigdreamprogram.com, which you can check out his work, and his group program on Circle, which I'm in right now, and I'm just enjoying so much.
Thank you.
So thank you. And
Thank you.
I'm in the midst of doing a lot of rethinking and revisioning of my own work as a benefit of working with you, Alex. So I'm going to be launching a new website in probably the next week or so, and I've got work here on Substack. And so, if folks are interested in more of my work or Alex's work, you know how to find us. And you
Perfect.
can also send either of us a message too if you want to connect through Substack as well. We're both here. And I would love to have more of these conversations in the future if you're open, my friend,
Sounds
because I've
good.
really enjoyed it. I always feel like the
Sounds
best
good.
version of myself when we finish talking. So thank you
Oh,
for that gift that you add to the
that's a
world.
nice thing to say. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. This is my first Substack Live. How do I even get out of here? I
Woohoo!
have
I
to look
think we
around.
just
Where's the end button? Everyone's going, oh my God, they won't stop talking. Well, I don't know how to stop talking.
it's okay. I will hit the end button, my friend. Have a
All
wonderful rest of
right.
your Saturday.
See ya.
Take care. Bye.